We are coming to you live from Vijay Chowk next to Parliament, the new Parliament building, which will be witnessing history as Nirmala Sitharaman presents her 7th consecutive budget. We have Sanchita Mukherjee, investment banker, and veteran journalist Neerja Chaudhary, who is going to recall for us when she first met Nirmala Sitharaman in 2007.
Yes, I remember Nirmala Sitharaman as a very good spokesperson at that time.
Yes.
I used to think, my God, she can, look at both sides of the picture. And of course, in subsequent years, she became much more strident. But today, as she presents her 7th consecutive budget, many people are going to criticize it, critique it naturally in a democratic setup. Many will support it, but it's a moment of pride for a woman to be presenting her 7th consecutive budget as the Finance Minister of India. It shows the journey we've covered as women.
Yes,
we have a long way to
we
go,
have an
but
all-women panel also here.
That's right.
So, as someone who has tracked her journey, what is one thing that you realize that she has, has been there strongly, being supportive of the Prime Minister for 10 years. She has complete support of the Prime Minister.
She has, and it is not that she started off that way. She was seen to be close to Arun Jaitley at that time, but she has very clearly stayed the course.
Yes.
We're aware of the compulsions as well as the opportunities to seize. So that says something for her also. As I say, we are going to, in a few hours, probably be criticizing her very vigorously. I don't know whether we will, but given the challenge she has, yes, it's a big challenge today in the first budget in Narendra Modi's term 3. Not easy, given the fact that they didn't get a clear majority and for reasons which are clear: unemployment, rising prices, how they are going to
address those
very difficult issues. Some of it was reflected in the economic survey that Nirmala Sitharaman presented to Parliament. But let's see. Everybody is waiting to see how she is going to, in moments from now.
Yes, and I'll ask you about coalition compulsion in just a bit. But before that, Sanchita, thank you so much. Lots being said in terms of the capex. The focus has been on Viksit Bharat Roadmap 2047. What is your anticipation as an investment banker?
Thank you so much for having me over. So I'll just quickly clarify. It's sweltering heat, and yes, I'm wearing my katha because budget is a very crucial and important day. I'm not an investment banker, I'm a business economist and a finance professional. And this capex is very, very crucial, not just for the finance sector, not just for for anything, but it's a huge multiplier for the economy. It's very good for the country because investment in capex, public capex, which the government has been doing the heavy lifting for the last couple of years in infrastructure, in the manufacturing sector. There was a point in time in our generation, we never really thought that manufacturing will take off the way it has with the PLI and the Make in India and the China Plus One policy. So for every 1 rupee put into the infrastructure manufacturing sector, it creates multiplier effect in job creation, which right now I think is a very, very crucial stage and a lot of discussions being done. So yes, we are looking forward for this government to continue with the heavy lifting in public capex, in infrastructure, in green oriented infrastructure, and also investments in education, skill building, where we feel there's a lap in terms of, it's not that jobs aren't there, meaningful jobs are there, new age businesses are coming up like how, but there's a gap in the skill. So investment in education, the way we have gone about with investment in defense manufacturing and all of that, making India so self-reliant in defense manufacturing, we can do the same model when it comes to education and skill building.
Yes, but the economic survey has talked about skilling gap. And where does the government fit in, and where does the role of the private sectors fit in, particularly for bridging that skilling gap?
Very, very important question. I was just reading a report a couple of days back which clearly stated last year close to 46.86 lakh jobs were created in the financial services sector. However, only close to 27.5 lakh jobs actually materialized in terms of applicants filling up these positions. So 18 lakh positions went vacant because the skill set wasn't there. Now, what stops the public, the private institutions, the large think tanks, educational institutions, the state government and central government coming together, which the economic survey termed as the tripartite compact, right? These players need to come together to address this very issue of the skill gap that we're talking about, because let's understand, tomorrow we're going to be living in an AI driven world. You know, for AI to be able to create newer jobs rather than displacing old ones, we need a very conclusive central policy which will bring together state government and private to address the skill gap. We cannot be sitting with old curriculum, age-old curriculum with a bunch of just handful of colleges.
Okay. Okay. We have Nayantara Kochar also joining us and Rudra Chatterjee. But before I bring both of them, let's discuss the politics of budget, because politics and economics, as they say, ma'am, go hand in hand. Coalition compulsion was the buzzword during UPA. It has still not made its entry in this coalition government. But you know, given the fact that Modi government is speaking from the position of strength, are you expecting some big announcements or packages for Andhra Pradesh and Bihar?
Look, before I go on to Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, which are going to be very critical.
Yes.
Those two states for this government are critical because the TDP and the JDU and Chirag Paswan's party and Jitin Manji all support this government and prop it in power because it has only 240 seats on its own. But this is likely to be a political budget. Unlike the interim budget, which was expected to be populist, but was not.
But wasn't.
In February this year.
Yes.
And it showed the confidence of the government. They thought we are coming back to power, so we can concentrate more on fiscal consolidation rather than populist measures before the election. This, the first budget normally of any government, is when they tend to take hard measures. But I don't expect them to do that because of 2-3 reasons. One, because they have very critical elections in the states down the road. Maharashtra, Haryana, Jharkhand this year, Delhi and Bihar next year. And of course, in addition to winning one more state, which they'd like to, any party would like to, they have to prove that Narendra Modi's popularity remains undimmed. So if they win 2 out of these 3 elections this year,
it's very critical.
Will go. It's very, very critical for them. Yes. Now, as far as coalition management, so far they have done well. We'll see what is given for Amravati, we'll see what is given for the refinery in Andhra Pradesh, what is the other financial package held out, what Bihar gets. They've ruled out a special category package for Bihar, but for infrastructure, for flood management and things like that, yes, there will be a package for Bihar, financial package. So we need to see that. But there is another thing, you know, given unemployment and prices becoming such an issue, how to create particularly food inflation, which is hurting people. What they do for the MSME sector, which is very important because the unorganized sector in this country accounts for more than 90% of the workforce. But the middle class has become equally important, Maria. They are moving away. They moved away. They showed signs of moving away from the BJP in the Lok Sabha election. But I hear stray voices now.
Yes.
यहाँ भी in Maharashtra, people saying, हमने ज़्यादा तो नहीं कर दिया. We wanted to give them a jhatka, a jolt, that they don't get, you know, it's not unbridled power that they exercise. But have we done little too much? So with this kind of thing happening, a rethink beginning to happen in sections of the middle class, there is a window of opportunity. Let's see how Nirmala Sitharaman utilizes it. Will she go for tax cuts, which the middle class is expecting? Okay, Nayantara, some tax cuts, is that what your calculation is? Or are you of the opinion that it will be a political budget as ma'am is putting it here?
Hi, good morning. As much as any change in the personal tax regime is welcome, these are all indirect measures to boost consumer spending. What we need to realize is all this job creation, 80 lakh job creation that Vishnu, everyone has been talking about, this is actually going to come not fueled by the large metros. This will primarily have to be driven by new job creators. And these new job creators are people like me, entrepreneurs, small startups. one of the simplest ways that we can achieve this is to kind of bring about a unified platform for logistics, for last mile delivery. We pass on the benefits from these spending to the rural areas where these accrued spendings can be utilized by startups, by business to consumer companies in rural areas. Now, non-metro job creation is not talked about as much, but that is the need of the hour. Our current GDP is pegged quite low at about 6.5 to 7%. And in my opinion, this is primarily because of the dearth in access to capital. It has become quite a tough ecosystem, even despite being the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. The tax regime for attracting investment is so cumbersome that if you want to create these jobs, you have to simplify the tax regime. One of the ways that we can kind of do that is to revitalize the economy, simplify the ease of doing business at whatever scale across India.
Okay, so the ease of doing business will be the buzzword, and even as we look at those visuals that is now will start coming in from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, but political budget or populist budget or middle class budget?
Thank you. Again, a very pertinent question. My co-panelist termed it very well, but I differ with her on a couple of points. I would think that the government for the last couple of years has done extremely well for the economy in terms of, I mean, it's been tabled yesterday, the economic survey. India's economy is very strong and stable in the face of global headwinds. We are right now in the middle of two wars, inflation abroad, inflation which is affecting us in terms of oil prices, all of that. But I think the government has steered through all of this very well. So I do not think it's going to be an all-in-all out populist budget. I think the focus on fiscal consolidation, on infrastructure, on meaningful development will remain. What I think the industry and the larger country at large is looking for is, of course, measures which will actually help this unequal growth which has happened in terms of consumption power need to be given to the middle class. Let's understand, middle class is also not what it used to be 77 years ago. We have expanded like how there are different stratas of middle class, different geographies, right? There's a huge urban-rural divide. So definitely tax rationalization, giving middle class the consumption power would be a theme. Ease of business, I think they have done tremendously well. They will continue to focus on that, continue on fiscal consolidation and development. However, looking at new age sectors like green solutions, solar, renewables will be a big push because that will really augur well for the country in a very long term.
Okay. Rudra Chatterjee is also with us. Rudra, your thoughts on this budget? Of course, it's 1.5 hours to go when Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will be presenting it.
Good morning, Maria. I think this is an important budget given where we are. We have seen the GDP is strong, as everybody's spoken about, but we need to have this GDP growing at the same rate for the next 10 years to become a $7 trillion economy. To do that, we need consumption and we need investment. That is where we are not strong. Consumption growth has been low at 4%. So how can we increase private consumption? And we give tax rebates, especially at the lower wages, to increase the consumption part of GDP. Private investment will follow consumption. So I'm not worried about private investment. As long as consumption grows above 10%, I think private investment will follow. The second area is the labor-intensive manufacturing. India needs jobs, as we've spoken about. To create jobs, we need labor-intensive manufacturing in textiles, in tea industry, in food processing industry. How can we create a system where Indian brands in textile and tea packages and consumer products are global? We should have a 5-year policy to enable that. I think climate change is real, and that is showing up as food inflation. We have to have weather resilient seeds. We have to have better and more sustainable irrigation. And I hope the budget focuses on those areas. I think in terms of our fiscal position, we are at a good position and we need to just sustain it over the next 5 years.
Okay. We also have Madan Sabnavis, Chief Economist of Bank of Baroda, joining us. But before that, Nirja ma'am, a word on Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and her legacy of 7 years.
Legacy, let's see. Let's see how, of course, she is now into her second term and the Prime Minister's third term. And she has been repeated, as have been many ministers, in order to give the impression of continuity, of business as usual, the Prime Minister completely in control, even though the BJP is in a minority and has formed a government with the help of allies. So we expect Nirmala Sitharaman to continue. A bit too early to say what her legacy is going to be. But let's see, the critical issue in this country, the burning issue, and will increasingly be so. And in many parts, we see it in Bangladesh, we see it around us, is unemployment. How do we address this? That is the core issue for any finance minister, any prime minister today in a country like India particularly. So I would say her legacy, I would look at her legacy in how she comes to address this. Of course, she cannot move independently. She's part of a collective, part of a team. But, one would watch her for that, certainly. I would say another thing, Maria, that the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister and this government have successfully so far dealt with the coalitional challenges within.
Yes.
Not,
But it's early days, ma'am.
It's early days. It's early days because what the Janata Dal U has been murmuring and there's dissatisfaction growing there. But the opposition, a very strengthened opposition in the 18th Lok Sabha, is what they will have to address also. You have the political jodi of the BJP today being countered by do ladke from UP.
Yes, very
Another
strong.
political jodi that's emerged from Uttar Pradesh and emerging very strong
Very
in
strongly,
parliament.
yes.
And today also I'm sure we'll see them in action.
Yes, we saw them yesterday during the NEET issue.
That's right.
So, Madan Sabnavis, coming to you, the issue of job creation. In the economic survey, the focus certainly has been that they have emphasized on looking at the EPFO data and at the same time acknowledging that there has been reverse migration and increased in labor force, particularly in rural India, which is countering rural distress in some ways. But do you get a sense that job creation is a roadmap of sorts will have to emerge in this budget?
See, the way I look at it is that when you're looking at the issue of employment, it's much broader and cannot be issued in the budget. It cannot be addressed in the budget. Okay, the budget is an income expenditure statement of the government. There are certain incentives which can be given on the tax side. There are certain expenditures which can be incurred both on the revenue side in terms of social welfare as well as maybe capex in order to bring about growth. Employment, to my mind, is a much broader issue. And I think what the economic survey has highlighted is that it will have to be tackled quite separately outside the budget. Two areas which they have emphasized, which I would like to re-emphasize out here, is number one, we need to do something on agriculture because productivity levels are going down and it's necessary for us to make sure that we are able to create meaningful jobs out here. The second thing is in terms of MSME. So when we're talking of the bottoms-up approach, the whole idea is that since MSMEs play an integral role in terms of contribution to GDP, industrial output, exports, as well as employment, we need to grow this particular sector in an independent manner. Here, I think the budget could address one issue in the sense like if I have a PLI-like scheme specifically for the MSMEs, I think that will be a giant step which can be taken in terms of giving a push to employment in this particular budget.
Okay. A quick word from Sanchita here, and then I would hand it over to Vishnu, who's joining us from CII. Sanchita, a word on the finance minister.
I think she's done remarkably well, and I completely agree with Nirja ma'am that this is a matter of pride for all of us women that she's tabling this budget for the 7th straight time. She has taken the country through the COVID times, and we have emerged as a very strong economy. Let's understand, Indian economy is a very, very diverse economy. We are not a Vietnam or a Sri Lanka or a Philippines, or a Korea, which is contingent on one sector, on one specific thing. We are extremely diverse, from chemicals to renewables to agriculture to manufacturing to services to IT. I mean, we have it all. So I think I agree with her. Right now would be the challenge in terms of getting to understand and having a credible source to data, which us as an industry is also looking forward to, because I think most of the data points that we have here are very, very conflicting, especially in the unorganized sector. I mean, most of the data that we are talking about is usually in the formal sector. But if one goes to the unorganized, one needs to deep dive even further and peel off the layers. But yes, a lot of opportunities are emerging on new age businesses, on electronics, manufacturing. It remains to be seen how she navigates through all of this, and takes our 4 trillion economy to an 8 trillion economy in the next 7 to 8 years. Very hopeful.
Okay, Neerja ma'am, because I'm sure you would have, covered several budgets. Which is one budget that you remember?
Oops, I remember the Chidambaram's dream budget,
Yeah.
when he was at the head of a coalition government, the United Front government. And nobody expected it to, a coalition is associated with weakness, instability, nothing new, no new ideas, big ideas. But his was called what was called the
dream budget.
So one that sticks in my mind since, from the top of my head, if I have to say.
Okay. So there is a dream budget of P. Chidambaram. Will there be a dream budget that we'll see this time around as well?